First of all, shout out to Discreet Headway for the lovely hat. Kind of seems strange to have a informative technological discussion with an individual who has a neck beard and a hat like this, but nonetheless, this is the latest build. The FlexRC Pico Owl uses a 20 by 20 millimeter flight stack and the Pico BLX flight controller, 1104 6500 kV motors from DYS, and the Rotor X 2035 2-inch blades, 2-inch quad blade props. So I think Rotor X makes the best props on the market. Some of those expensive, I think, but they make the best. Secondly, many are probably going to say, hey, it's probably just like a tiny whoop, and it's not. Some of you notice it's a brushless version. It's 88 millimeters corner to corner, so it's a little bit larger than the tiny whoop, which I think is like maybe 60 or 70 millimeters. And as a result, it has very different flight characteristics. It's a little, if you keep it chill in the house, you can fly it around very, very docile, but outside you'll notice it handles very differently. It is just as stable as a tiny whoop, and it's essentially a more wind-resistant version. We'll go outside for a flight in a moment, and you'll see. As the quad is able to, the size allows it for really interesting flight perspective. So you can fly it through trees, in gaps, and the protected props allow you to kind of fly with this confidence that you normally wouldn't have, and this ability to recover from bumps and crashes. Literally, you can bump into a tree branch and it'll allow you to stabilize again. It is a little heavy for its weight. I haven't exactly weighed it. And it uses either 2 or 3S batteries using the JSD. I might switch to XT30, but yeah, we'll show some video right now what it's like just outside of my street. Alright, there we are, about to take off. Partially charged 500 milliamp battery. Going up the street, I'm standing outside my neighbor's porch, and they were having a crazy fight halfway through this flight, so I started to lose concentration. The first thing you'll notice is that the field of view is very similar to a tiny whoop. Its speed a little bit quicker. It has the punch out that's a little bit more pronounced. Its size allows you to hit the little gaps like the tiny whoop, and the prop ducts that protect the propellers give you a sense of confidence. It's also very, very quiet. That guy who I just flew past didn't say anything to me as I was flying earlier. It makes a very, very quiet sound. These motors are very quiet. You can see the punch out is a little bit more than a tiny whoop. There I am flying across the street, checking to see if there's any pigeons camped out, because my neighbor feeds the pigeons, unfortunately. And the size of this thing is just great, and the protection of the props give you an element of confidence to hit little gaps and try things, as you'll see coming up here. The ducts in this case are made of a TPU, I believe, so they're a little flexible. They're a little heavier than what you find in the nylon of the INDESTRUCTIBLE, but they're substantially more durable. There I am hitting another tree gap rather proficiently, just spur of the moment. The quad's very, very stable. I saw Stu from UAV Futures fly this in a warehouse and hit tiny gaps, and I was like, how does he do that? I mean, you got to fly this thing to believe it. If you keep it slow and steady and don't get crazy, like you would on other type of quad, you'll be able to hit some really small gaps. The camera angle on this, I think, is like 10 or 15%, and that's the most you're going to really want it. The power plant really doesn't, and the flight characteristics aren't such that it's appropriate for acro, even though I am flying in full acro mode. Here I am about to hit this other gap. It's pretty small. I bounce off there and save myself from touching the car. But, those types of impacts would traditionally take out a quad. But it saved me. And so one of the things you'll notice is when I yaw really hard, and that one was really smooth, and so I could hit this tree gap. When I yaw really hard, sometimes my side banks, and I think it's from the ducts or a battery sagging or a lack of tune. There's another small gap that I hit, and you'll see me hitting more of them. The ducts in the trees, or excuse me, the ducts make for phenomenal protection for tree flying. There I am just charging through there again. I think gives you a very different flying experience. Normally we avoid trees. With this quad, you kind of seek them out and want to explore them. Very, very unique flying characteristic, because it's almost like a more powerful. This is what I think the INDESTRUCTIBLE 200 was supposed to be, right? A brushless version, except it was so underpowered and so large and heavy. This thing is small, lets you just charge right through. I think Horizon will probably be coming out with a brushless version or something like that at some point to compete with the Babyhawk. I think the Babyhawk has made the tiny whoop a little less relevant, and then made these micros a lot more relevant. If you keep the sticks really slow and steady like a tiny whoop, it really doesn't bank or dip at all, but you'll see here that it does substantially, and then I crash out. So there you have it, the FlexRC Pico Owl, very much like a brushless tiny whoop. The flight characteristics were similar, even though I was flying in full acro mode. Keeping the quad stable was very easy to do. And these prop guards, they're TPU, I think. They're definitely super durable, but allows the quad to just literally bounce off of objects and prevent the propellers from catching anything, so you can stay up in the air. You saw me hitting those tree gaps and flying through the trash cans and bouncing off one of them and continuing to fly. And it really, I think, allows you to become a better pilot when you have these ducks, although I do think that flight performance suffers. Let me know, guys, because if you notice on some of the turns, it would bank and I would lose control. I don't know if it's because the battery was sagging, because the ducks were impeding flow, the fact that it's a stock tune on Betaflight 3.2, or all of the three. Let me know your thoughts. Also hit like and subscribe. I'll have a bunch more of these FPV videos. If you're looking for a micro to fly inside your house and outside, I would recommend this over all others. If you just want something and you're not too serious about it, and you don't want to build, buy one of the less expensive bind and fly kits. In my opinion, the Lizard 95 is super powerful, was not very thought out in the sense that you have to modify it to make it fly well, and that's not the idea of a bind and fly. And it's kind of a difficult thing to disassemble for some folks. And so the Emax Babyhawk, now that I think on their second or third production run, is running really well. It flies great out of the box. There's a few limitations with it. You have, I think, not the most powerful. You just have a dipole and not too powerful of a VTX transmission power, which is fine. You have pretty flimsy prop guards, and the frame itself is made of nylon as opposed to the carbon fiber here. And so there's some trade-offs. If you want for something a little more serious, I would highly recommend the folks at Airblade. Or the folks at Tomo Quads. I think they build some of the best micro frames. If you're looking for like something that flies like a 5-inch and totally rips, let's move up to a 3-inch and get something with 1407, 1408 motors. This is the Rotorex Atom V3.5. It's an upgraded version. It's more powerful motors, upgraded camera, and this super indestructible TPU canopy. Really enjoy this. It uses the Crossfire setup, so it's really well suited for flying anywhere. It gives me full telemetry, so I can fly pretty far, and it'll tell me really, I think, the limits of what Crossfire can do, which is useful because not all my other Crossfire quads have telemetry. And the Axie antenna, to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of Lumineer and a lot of their products. They make some of the best 3-inch props. The Rotorex 3044T is the best 3-inch prop you can get. It's also the most expensive. It's like $4 a pack or $1 a prop. For $3 a pack, these Lumineers do great, and this Axie antenna, I almost use exclusively TBS Triumph, and I use a lot of TBS products. I still think they're overall the best electronics manufacturer in FPV in terms of, and I think definitely the biggest innovators. There's something about the Axie for some reason that does give me better video quality. Even though I'm using the Unify and the FPV Vision layer and everything else, the Axie gives me just very clear video, and it also could be the fact that I just switched from the Furious TrueD module, which failed, to the new LaForge version 2, which I guess isn't so new, but it's been working perfectly for me, and just phenomenal video with no breakup, using a Mad Mushroom and then a patch antenna on the other side. Gives me just really great coverage with very little breakup. I'll show you some footage of this later, and if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to see more of them. Thanks, guys, and have a great day. And yeah, if you want to see any of the links or links to the hardware below and what I use in purchasing them, you'll be able to see them in the description. Take care.